Good morning, everyone. My name is Ciaran, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to master competency based interviews, how to tell your story effectively, regardless of the questions you get asked. Just a little bit about myself before we get started. So, my name is Ciaran. I'm a life and career coach, and I have a diverse background in hospitality management and within the tech sector. For the last 3 years, I've been running my own coaching practice. I work primarily with professionals, mid career professionals who are looking to either transition into the next stage of their career or into a new industry. So, just a little bit about what we're going to cover today. So, when it comes to competency based interviews, preparation is key. So, we're going to look at how to prepare effectively using the job description, how to introduce yourself with confidence. We're going to look at a technique for structuring your answers within the interview, and we're going to look at some tips for leaving a lasting impression. So, the first step when you get a competency based interview is preparing effectively using the job description. So, it's the best resource you can use for preparation in any interview. When you're applying for a job and you're submitting your CV, when that gets to the recruiter, they're going to compare your CV to what they've advertised, the job description. And that's what, if you have on your CV what they're looking for, the skills, the experience, that's what gets you through to the first round of the interview. And then the same when it comes to the interview, the hiring manager is going to use what they have on the job description, the skills they want, the competencies they want, to use those for questions to test if you have the experience that they're looking for. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to identify the key responsibilities, the tasks, and the duties listed. You want to note them down. You want to extract the skills and the competencies that are required for the role. They're going to be listed on every job description. You want to take at least 6 of 8 of those competencies. And then you want to take note of anything relating to company values or culture. So I'm sure you've heard for interviews, always research the company first. You'll always find a lot of information online around the values, their culture, their mission statement. But within the job description, the hiring manager will always list the type of personality that they're looking for within that specific team. And that's really great information to have so that you can bring it in during your interview. So, the first story you get to tell within any interview is your introduction. So, whether that be tell me about yourself or talk through your experience through your CV, you want to make sure that it's as relevant as possible to the role. So, let's say you're moving into the same kind of role or you're coming in from a different position, you want to get your skills or your transferable skills across. So you want to make sure that when you're talking about your previous roles, you're not talking about them in general. You're talking about the specific aspects that relate to the role that you're applying for. So right from the get-go, they can see, okay, you are the right candidate, you have the skills, you have the strengths that they're looking for. And you also want to make sure within those first couple of minutes that you're expressing your passion for the role and your interest in the company. So this is your opportunity if you've researched the company to bring in what you know about it, why you want to join the company, and the same with your interest in the specific role. Often recruiters and hiring managers are going to wonder why you're leaving your current role. They might ask. This is an opportunity to bring that in as to what really interests you in the role and why you've applied for it. And then you want to make sure that you create strong behavioral examples before you even get into the interview. So you want to make sure that you have 6 to 8 really good examples that you can tailor to any question within the interview. So with competency based questions, um, you want to make sure first that you list what is needed to be successful for each competency. So let's take communication as an example, effective communication. You might use that every day within your role. You might be very good at it. It's a strength of yours. But if I was to ask you to list 4 or 5 things that makes you a great communicator, you'll struggle because it's not something that we think about every day. We do it subconsciously. It's part of our routine, So you want to make sure that you understand what's important for each competency so that you, when you're coming up with your examples, when you're talking to them, you can make sure that you're bringing that into the answer. And then you want to make sure you pick an example that has extra value. So you might have dozens of examples of effective communication within your role, but you want to pick one that will allow you to stand out. So maybe it's around a project that you initiated or something that you came up with within your role. It adds that extra value than just any normal example. And then you want to make sure you build an example for each competency using the STAR method. So this is the method most hiring managers use to evaluate your examples to make sure that you're hitting each point and that you're actually answering the question. So situation, task, action, result. Situation, it stands for 20% of the example. It should be where you're setting the context. So you're telling the hiring manager what the situation was, what was going on. Then task, this is where you're outlining clearly what it is that was expected of you. What is it you had to do? What was your task? And then action should be 60% of your answer. And this is the most important section of your answer because this is where you're talking through the steps. You are demonstrating that you are proficient in that competency. And then finally, you want to make sure for the result that you're giving them the outcome. So often what I see with candidates who prepare for an interview or within interviews themselves, they're really good at outlining all the amazing things that they did, but they don't tell them what the outcome was. They don't tell them what they did. And that's really important because if you have outlined all these amazing things that you've done and that you're really good at, you want to make sure that they know you can get the outcome from that. And then come to, so no matter how often you prepare or how well prepared you are, you're always going to come across a question that you might not have been prepared for or that you might not have an example ready for. So, very easy to say, but you want to make sure you stay calm and composed. And a few of the ways to do that is you don't want to jump straight in and give an example, and then you're a couple of seconds in and you realize, oh, okay, I actually had a better example for this. You don't need to jump right in. You can take a couple of seconds, ask them to clarify the question if needed, repeat the question back to them, ask them to rephrase the question, bring a bottle of water, take a sup of water, give yourself those 3 to 5 seconds to think of your example. And then again, back to structuring your response, you want to make sure you're using that STAR method. And finally, you want to be honest and authentic. So, specifically, if you're early out in your career or you're transitioning into a different role that you might not have a specific example for, don't make something up. Tell them that you haven't encountered that situation before, and then follow that by what you would do if you encountered that situation. So, what are the steps? You can still show them that you understand the competency, that you have those skills, that maybe you've used them in different areas, but you just don't have a specific example for that question. And if possible, then even following on that, maybe you have some example from a different area of your life, maybe from a hobby or from a volunteering event or something that you can tie in then towards the end just to add that extra value. And then some tips for leaving a lasting impression. So, depending on the roles that you're going for nowadays, in between the screening and the first interview, many specifically within the tech sector and within corporate roles, you might be asked to do some sort of personal assessment, technical assessment, coding challenges. So if you're going into a new role, um, often that can happen really quick. If you apply for the role, if you do get an interview, you can have the 20-minute screening, and the next day they could send you the challenge with 24 hours to do it. So be prepared for things like that. Do research on the type of roles that you're applying for to see does any assessments apply to these roles so that you're prepared in advance. And then one of the most important things is you want to make sure that you research the company in depth. So understand their products, their services, their values. Make sure that you know enough about the company. Often that will be a question. And if it's not a question, there's always an opportunity to bring that in because when it comes to an interview, if it comes down to the final two candidates and you both have the same skill set, experience, competencies, qualifications, it will often come down to who showed the most interest, who wants it the most. And that's your opportunity to add that little bit of extra value. And then finally, you want to make sure you end the interview with a strategic question. So often, this is probably one of the most questions that I get when it comes to preparing for an interview is what question should I ask at the end? And often, many people ask the standard generic questions of around salary or when the start date would be. You want to make sure that you ask something that allows you to stand out that allows you to stand out a little bit more. So maybe it's a question around, if I was successful in this role within the first 3 months, what would I need to do for you to feel like you made the right decision? Or if there's a question that you felt you didn't answer very well, whether it be around a competency, project management, teamwork, communication, you have an opportunity to maybe ask them a question around that, around what's the team environment like, or what do they expect within teamwork, so that you have an opportunity to respond to that, to show them that you have those skills and that you're the right fit. Okay, so that's it for me. Um, I have a free workshop coming up on the 19th of 11, online workshop, 5 proven steps to find and land your next role. This is a workshop that I'll go through usually with my clients. So if you're interested, take a look at the QR code and feel free to register.